Hey guys. So I just wanted to come back and let you guys know I had a couple of downloads that came through pretty rough yesterday. I mean, really hard. Like it just kind of hit me out of nowhere. So I did want to go ahead and share some of the thoughts that came to mind. They did seem relevant to the general collective. And I will be doing air sign reads, but they may not come out until tomorrow. I don't know how much energy I'm going to have left after this. But what came through was a conversation about Judas. And although that might seem strange to some of you, I'm actually not religious, only because I don't subscribe to institutional thought. I don't like being boxed into, a certain sex, a certain ethnicity, a certain preference on, political stance or something like that. I don't like being boxed. That's not something that I'm willing to subscribe to any longer. I do have a message about the nature of our nutrients or what we consume. And I guess that has a lot more to do with kind of a consumerist mindset than it does to do with anything else. I think when we think about America and when we think about the relationship that America has as a superpower with other countries, one of the things that's really important is our ability to influence or our ability to be replicated, mimicked. We are the number one most mimicked country in the world. African Americans in specific, our culture is the number one most mimicked culture. I mean, American culture is world culture to a certain extent. No other culture has established as much media output, as much, spent as much money developing these things as we have. So I guess the main kind of essence of what I'm trying to say here is that we have a responsibility to kind of acknowledge what's really going on with that message that we're sending the world. I know when I was studying abroad, one of the things that was really striking to me was the way that other countries deal with their natural resources. In Thailand, I enjoy running, and while I was out, people just used to tell me, don't run through this city." And I would say, "Why?" Like I want to go see the neighborhood and whatnot. I kind of explore my surroundings, and their response was that there was no air quality control over there, that there was no regulation of the amount of pollution just being dumped into the general atmosphere. Same thing kind of went for the Ganges River in India. They have huge cremation vats located on the side of the Ganges at one point, and they actually dump all of the cremated remains of people that they love, and even animals, etc., into the river, into the Ganges. And it struck me because the people actually do go to the Ganges every day to do their prayers. They do something called puja. So in puja, you're putting the water on your head. You're, possibly getting droplets of it in your mouth. And I just remember being in a little boat going down the Ganges on, I think it was, I don't know what holiday that was, but it was during some kind of holiday. We were there 2007, and it was just kind of disgusting. I'm not going to lie. We saw portions of cows, like hindquarters of cows floating down the river. We saw, it was so such dirty water that we were actually warned not to touch it. They did actually have, certain vendors would have little vials of water full of the Ganges, and they would sell it just because it was, obviously the same water that these people were praying in was the same water that was being polluted by these huge cremation vats. So I think there's something to be said for water. I do want you guys to go look at the Dr. Emoto's water experiment. It is about the way that water crystallizes after you have spoken to it, or after you have put an intention upon it. And it's amazing. It will change your mind about your words. It will change your mind about your disposition towards your intentions towards people, places, and things, because our bodies are made primarily of water. I have mentioned that before, but I do feel the need to mention it again. And I also wanted to mention unicorns. The message that came through for me last night was that I don't think we always consider every single perspective of people, especially when thinking about Judas. We think about Judas as being the backstabber, as being the villain of the 12 disciples, if you will. And one of the things that kind of came through here was that perhaps the unicorn did not want to get on Noah's Ark. Maybe that wasn't actually something that the unicorn felt compelled to do. And although you would say, okay, the Ark of the Covenant is something that God has orchestrated, etc., why wouldn't you get on board with it? There are persons, places, and things that understand the actual relevance, the honor, in staying with your original land, with staying with your original people, with staying with the original thought process that came about. And because the unicorn didn't want to get on to the ark, or maybe was rejected from getting on the ark, there is now a stigma around them. So a lot of people, if you're not 18, please sign off. This is probably not a message for children. But I'm aware that in society these days, unicorns are associated with swingers, or people who are willing to participate in relational orgies or polyamory. I actually take a lot of offense to that. And it's not just for myself. I do love unicorns. I think they're amazingly magical creatures. And because we have things like narwhals that we've actually proven have existed, and rhinosaurs, I don't know why they came through like that, but because we have things like that, I do believe that there were possibly animals in the past that have been extinct at this point who had a different nature about them. When you think about a unicorn's horn, it does extend from the pineal gland, which if you look into a pineal gland, it is the singular gland in the middle of your brain shaped like a pine cone. The natural state of its excretion, or the natural chemical that's excreted by the pineal gland, is actually called DMT. It has been made into a recreational street drug, so that largely relates to what I'm about to tell you about the unicorns. However, you do naturally excrete DMT from your pineal gland when you're being born, when you're dying, and during REM sleep. Those are the 3 times that it occurs. Other than that, we don't really have this huge stimulation of our pineal gland typically. The unicorn, however, when you're looking at the courtyard of the pine cone, which is actually in the Vatican, you can see a huge pine cone and 2 peacocks looking directly at the top of this pine cone. When we think about the scepter, or the big old walking stick that the Pope actually carries around with him, it does have a pine cone on the top of it. So when you're talking about enthralling people's minds or capturing the essence of what a human is, a lot of times we don't consider that body, mind, and spirit are the trinity of our vessel, our human vessel here. I don't think that is so relevant to the Vatican as it is to what I'm trying to make my point about here. They have a list for Orthodox Catholics of books and media that they don't want you to inundate your mind with, because they don't feel that it is safe or productive for whatever thought process you may be going through religiously or otherwise. That's actually very monitored information. And there's a specific reason why they have done that. Unicorns are played with by small children, specifically young women or little girls. And I think the offensive part of the association with polyamory is the fact that we also hold a double standard against our children. Young men are not able to express emotion very easily without being thought of as weak or soft in some way, shape, or form. There's almost this prerequisite of rough behavior, of being too aggressive, too overly sexualized as a man. G.I. Joe is pumped up. The Hulk, hulked up. All of these action figure heroes that we see here, our leaders, or what our children look at as their leaders, or what they'd aspire to be, to the idols that they've got, have been specifically created in order for us to be consumers of that resource. So mentally, even though you may not be realizing it, there are not very many Lego sets that are in pastel pink colors. I'm sure there are Lego sets in pastel pink, but that's not typically the color. Pastel purple, pastel, you don't see that kind of stuff, the cohesion of those two sides. So our young women are encouraged away from building, from establishing certain foundations for themselves. We are supposed to be way more submissive, more quiet, less intrusive, not hulked up, a smaller, condensed version of Barefoot and Pregnant is fed to these young ladies through imagery of unicorns, glitter, this idea of magic being an untouchable sort of thing that kind of just comes down and affects you in some way, shape, or form, rather than them holding the power themselves to literally build whatever kind of pastime or pastel that they would like. That's why I find it offensive that adults have actually sexualized the unicorn, and made it into something that is a tool of destruction against our young women. I don't think that's okay. I don't think that animals can be necessarily villainized either. In the Garden of Eden, for example, we look at the snake, a garden snake, or whatever kind of snake the snake was in the Garden of Eden, and we villainize it. We say this snake was the reason why Eve took a bite from the apple. When you think about it, if you're willing to listen to outside influence and let it penetrate your mind in a way that is going to negatively affect your actions, then in praxis, you're not being true to who you are. And I guess that's what Judah was trying to do. He was, out of the 12 disciples, the one out of the 12 that was chosen to be as real with himself about the negative aspects, the jealousy, the hatred, the envy, the backstabbing nature of humanity, of our ability to manifest what's mentally going on. He chose the opposite of the other 11 out of 11. So when we're looking at tarot cards, when we're looking at religious institutions, when we're looking at money, when we're looking at our children and their education, one of the things that we have to bring together at some point in the near future here, I feel spiritually at least, is the cohesion and the ability to make it safe for our children to have the curiosity of a cat, to express themselves in different ways than what we're classically, traditionally conditioned to kind of project on them. What we are raised believing, what we are raised understanding, what we are raised exposed to tends to be what we pass forward. And rather than just blindly accepting what your parents have put on the table for you, although it may be as great a gift as they possibly could have put on the table for you, I also think it's really important to be able to question which morals, values, traditions, and ethics do I want to pass forward to future generations, future legacies, and the children are that. I've come to a place where it's hard to understand sometimes the actions of others as it pertains to the way that they would like to influence, or the way that they would want to affect me, my children, the legacy that I'd like to leave. That's a personal journey for everybody, but it's also something that we outwardly express. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there is a 13th zodiac. It is called Ophiuchus. You can go look it up on Google if you're not familiar, but it is a 13th option that is out there, and it's not widely known. When you're looking through a magazine, the zodiac section, or the your horoscope, I guess you could say, the Eye of Horus, the horoscope, is going to show you your sun sign. Typically, your sun sign is the way that you present yourself to the world. You have a whole chart. You've got your moon sign, your Venus sign, your Mars, your Pluto, your Saturn, your Jupiter. There's a whole chart that is associated with each person in this world. And you've got a lot more than just the 12 aspects of yourself. There's also the aspect of yourself that is unseen, typically, or unacknowledged, typically. And I do feel like Othicus brings this into perspective. And given that we're coming off a leap year, leap years are obviously the adjustment of the Gregorian calendar to fit our time frames, or what we consider to be a full cycle or full 365-degree view of what's going on in a year. So the extra 10 days there, the extra completion of a cycle has to happen every once in a while for everybody. And it has to do with your karmic ability to manifest your Akashic record, is what I believe. And I think that some of what is bothersome is that, when we talk about fractions, I was joking about this the other day, but, 5 out of 3 people have issues with numbers. It's a joke, but it's also serious. I think there are ways in which God is able to talk to each of us. I don't think God has a gender. I don't think it has a specific form. I think that when you understand what God is, or the general consciousness of the universe, the unification of a verse, of a what we're passing forward, what we're speaking over ourselves. There's power in a name, but there's also power in reclaiming yourself and your name. If you feel like your life is on the wrong path, there's power in reclaiming the path that you're going to walk down. And I think that that's something that we've fallen down with our children on. I don't think we've really shown them specifically ways in which they can get back on whatever path it is that they need to manifest for themselves. We didn't create these little ones to be our vicarious beings. We didn't raise them to live our lives. We had them in the first place because we experienced so much love. Hopefully. There are situations where, little people can come about in not so great situations, and that's unfortunate. But they've come through for a reason and in a certain way so that we can offer them the experience of life. And if we're dampering that experience or pushing them down or making them believe that there's only one way to do something, then we have effectively shut off the reflection between the two sides, which is more or less the hologram that is us. If you cut yourself down the middle, draw a line down the middle of your face and make it look like a butt, then Senka, you're not dead. You've got the both sides here and you're on a path. If you don't have any, if you're just pantomime, if you're feeling your way through the turmoil of today, that's a superpower in and of itself, is to be able to figure out what kind of a nutshell you've been encapsulated inside of. That's a hard pill to swallow for some people. For other people, that's a necessary pill to swallow. For other people, it's a natural pill to swallow. So just like we've got Eastern and Western medicine, Eastern medicine tends to deal with the source or the root of the problem. Rather than saying, let's give you some cough syrup, they want to go and take an x-ray of your chest so that they can see what's going on, what kind of congestion you may have, where that is originating from, maybe decrease the amount of milk that you're taking. Maybe you're lactose intolerant and your phlegm tends to get way more thick when you drink a certain type of milk. Versus Western medicine, when we go to the doctor and get cough syrup, when we're given ibuprofen to kill the pain, when we're given a pill to make it feel better, but we're not actually ever spoken to about the source of the issue. We're never actually given a secondary or tertiary option for how to resolve whatever imbalance is happening in our bodies that is creating this outward symptom. And I think that that's honestly why there needs to be a rectification of all of this energy and a truthful evaluation of the Judas inside of all of us. I was looking at a can of, or a can, a actual little container of Haagen-Dazs the other day, and realizing that, in German, der, das, and dem are all pronouns. They're a person, place, or thing. And rather than looking at each other as people who are things to be used or moved around or reorganized in certain ways, we need to be looking at ourselves as humans. And it just brings to mind, this new age wave of people who are way more obsessed with the material, physical appearance of things. So although you can take pride in your appearance, there's also this kind of sick mentality, where women are scheduling C-sections. You don't think that that was an option back in the Stone Ages, do you? Or back in, when women had babies in fields and then went right back to working. I think there is a natural order to things, and I think adults have decided that we are the order. And that is just, in my mind, I think it's wrong. I think it's absolutely backwards. These children are the order. We're here for them. We're here to teach them something about who they could be and then to help them manifest that. We're not here to control who they are. We're not here to teach them to follow only the things that we've known in the past. What kind of fun is that? Some of these children who are being bullied into being tough and into having this exterior of being all right all the time when they're not okay on the inside, when they want to build, when they want to express themselves. That's how we end up with situations like the Batman theater, things like Columbine High School, things like, people walking around with so much anger and so much just ire that they need to express in a negative way or against each other. Hurt people hurt people. So if we're trying to break these cycles, there is a necessary component of looking at yourself, the Judas inside of yourself, and saying, hey, rather than villainizing Judas, let's figure out what kind of information was fed to him as a child that made him believe that he was so poor or so unable to manifest wealth for himself that he had to go and sell himself to Pontius Pilate. We now walk around with Palm Pilots in our hands. What are we hogging here? What are we really shoving down our children's throats? What are we greedy about? Is it love? Or is it a paradigm of thought that has changed people into things, into consumerist things? So the way that it came through for me was that the Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, whatever religion it is that you have decided to adopt for yourself, all of those religions, at the core of it, have the golden rule, which is treat others the way that you would like to be treated. It's just so simple, it's stupid. I guess some people are masochistic, but you need to go back and figure out where that began. Where did you start beating yourself up? Was it the day that someone came to school with some Jordans on their feet and you wanted Jordans so bad you were willing to go beat someone up at the store to get it? Was it the day someone took your lunch money and you weren't able to eat? Was it the day that you got whooped for believing or asking questions to your parents about their beliefs? What was it? Where does this originate from? Where are we steering our children to go in the future? Are we teaching them that their questions are stupid? Are we teaching them that they've got to have something wrong to fix at all times? Are we shoving them in boxes, checking off all of the qualifications of who they are as if there is one gender that's the only gender you can ever associate with? People say, oh, you're gay. Do you know what the word gay means? It means happy. So I hope my children are gay. I hope all of them are. May your unborn fetus be gay. That's not an insult. Homosexuality is different from being gay. The words that you use to explain to your children and the way in which you explain it. Are we condescending them, or are we trying to give them their own globe, their own reason for being? Are we inspiring art from them, or are we inspiring them to be insecure? You don't have a big enough car. You don't have nice enough clothes. Your vision is off. I'm wearing these glasses in solidarity with my son, who just had to start wearing glasses. And to me, that was one of the moments in which I can stand with him. It's like finding out someone has cancer. Not to, relate eyesight to cancer, but I am saying whatever your child is going through, you normalizing that for them or helping them to find a happy medium or middle ground is coming through strongly. Is something that we all need to do, myself included. I'm not exempting myself. This is something that is very pertinent to the future well-being of this planet. When you think about the way that we treat our animals, we've polluted the water to the point where these animals are being cut open, completely caught, dying because of our waste. The plastic can holders with all the holes through them, the wire, the fishing line, I could talk about it forever. It's not a new concept. You guys know what I'm talking about here. There's a balance between earth and water on this earth. Those are your two options. You can be a Terrian, or you can be a Aquarian. Funny enough, we started off as water-based life. We moved from amniotic sacs of fluid inside of our mothers to being terrestrials walking on this earth. And I think that the loss of memory or the loss of ability to search our own psyche for that relation, the fact that we look like a seahorse when we're a fetus, the fact that the inside of a blowfish looks like the inside of a lung cavity. We've got swordfish, we've got narwhals, we've got walruses, we've got platypus. Whatever information you're ducking, whatever information it is that you're avoiding. I think my sex talk from my parents was approximately 5 minutes. I remember when it happened, and I remember how it happened. And the rest of it I read from books by myself, watched movies, tried to educate my mind on the dynamics of this thing that I had no clue about. By the time that I got my cycle, I had no clue what was going on and had already been exposed fully to sexual predators, to sexual situations, to situations that were completely elusive to me as a child. At age 11, my innocence was taken without my permission, without my knowledge, without any kind of regard. And because I didn't have the tools at that time to vocalize or to express or to question what was happening to me, that is something that I'm going to have to always resolve with myself. To take an inventory on where I'm at with my physical, mental, and spiritual state of being as a woman, as a mother, as a lover, as a sister, as a daughter. All of these situations, all of those identities as my gender in my physical body, have been confronted. And because I'm not willing to subscribe to some of the societal norms that we've decided to create for ourselves, I understand that there could be some ostracizing. But I've also sat patiently and watched grown women who are apparently very successful and very happy with their lives on public television take needles full of artificial fluids and shoot themselves in the face, shoot their lips, shoot their nose, break their nose and cut it off in order to fit someone else's standard of beauty. I personally choose not to wear makeup because it makes me feel weird. It makes me feel like a clown when I walk outside. It's just not for me. For some women, that's their war paint. Why do women feel the need to go into war as soon as we leave the door? Why do we have to carry our keys with one between our fingers on our way to our car at night? The CDC classifies a country and their wealth, their amount of actual riches, by the way that they treat their women and children. That's the CDC and the World Health Organization's standard for first, second, and third world countries. It's the treatment of women and children. It's the way the society treats them. When I was in India, it broke my heart. I watched human beings fighting with animals over piles of trash for food. The regard for animals over there is very different, but it's also got to be different. When you're fighting with an animal for your next meal, what do you expect? They're not going to have dogs as pets. They're not going to have a cat as a pet if they're having to fight dogs and cats or like dogs and cats for a bite of food. There's a huge difference. And I feel like because of the lack of plasticity of American minds or American sentiments about being the greatest country in the world or about being the superpower of the world, that responsibility comes with a certain acknowledgement of the fact that we're finite to a certain degree, that humans do have a negative side, that we've got an ugly portion of ourselves that needs to be addressed in order for it to be expelled. You can't really fix a problem with a car unless you can diagnose what the problem is. You can replace the entire car, but that also takes a lot of resources, a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of research. So there's a number of things that have been read into, I think, by our society in a way that's destructive. And I think the unicorn and Judas and this idea of you scream, I scream, we all scream for ice cream. Ice cream is not healthy for you, especially if you're lactose intolerant, if you got diabetes, if you got any kind of I could go on and on. It's not about the ice cream. It's not about the the hog inside of all of us that wants to pig out on ice cream. It's about the dare, das, and dem. Are you hogging that? Are you hogging her? Are you hogging him? What about yourself? There should be a duality within yourself that's so stable. You don't need an outside source of nutrient or information that's going to harm you. We need identifiers. We need markers for these moments in time that have been destructive to ourselves in the past and to our future legacy with our children. And if we can't mark those moments as being significant, either in a positive or a negative way, then we can't really map out the human genome of anything. You know, how are we going to figure ourselves out if we're not willing to look at the negative? If we're not willing to say, hey, this person has been diagnosed with bad vision. This person has a pathology called cancer. This person has a praxis in life that is causing the cancer. I think there's something to be said for the foundations that we've set for ourselves and something to be said for the foundation that we have the opportunity to create at this time. We've got so many platforms that we could be maximizing, that we could be trying to cap out on, you know, hit that glass ceiling as hard as you can. It's the Willy Wonka effect of elevating ourselves beyond just the idea of indulgence. It's a removal of the trash that we've accumulated inside of ourselves so that we don't pass that trash on. We can break the cycles that we were raised in if we're willing to look at them. If we're willing to have the difficult conversations that informed us that we were not good enough, that we were poor, that we were unable, that we were somehow lacking. There's a lot more to be gained than less. So I think it's, you know, this cell of God, or the Fibonacci footprint or carbon imprint that we leave on this world, does not just extend to the trash that we leave behind. It also extends to the mental capacity to immortalize yourself, to pass forward a tree of knowledge or information that your children can bite from without fearing for themselves, especially women, especially little girls. You can't have a full human body whose heart is protected and able to express fully if you're knocking out ribs from the left and the right. You need your rib cage to cover and protect your heart and your lungs. If we're going to be in the business of breaking our children's hearts and breaking their rib cages and knocking out their teeth and knocking their heads around with these tones, with these vibrational ideas, these bad intentions, these negative cycles, this silence that has bubbled and now festered over into society as consumerist BS, I think that's literally the poison of the earth, the excess that we consume over here in India, in Thailand, in Africa, in Australia, and wherever you are watching this. I literally feel almost offended that the dash between the birth and the death date of somebody or something could be so largely influenced by negativity. We're taking away our children's ability to look at death as something positive, as a rebirthing process. We're making them fear death so that they live as quickly as they possibly can. Consume as much as you have. Frantic. This is panic. This is mayhem. If we're able to tell them exactly what birth and death are, to share with them the amazing conversation that we could have had back in our water state days, in utero, with God, perhaps, asking questions such as, is there such a thing as mom after birth? Is there such a thing as life after birth? You're being squeezed through a dime-sized opening, and you're the size of a watermelon. I bet you during that process, at some point, each child goes through a moment of thinking that they're not going to survive. And although some children come out quietly and some come out screaming, either way it goes, we've birthed them into a world that tells them that ice cream is the birthday party food of choice. That the cake that we've made is the penultimate reason why they should look forward to their birthday. That the presents under the tree is what's important about the light returning from equinox and solstice. That we've informed them of a black and white existence, rather than pointing out to them all the shades of gray and all the beautiful spectrum of light that comes from understanding the bell curve of information that's out there. The bell curve also goes the other way. So you got to turn that frown upside down. It's a recycling of energy, or a biology of belief that we have kind of slapped them with at this point. And them being exposed to our lack of awareness of that is something that I think is, maybe that the unicorn was like, F this arc. I don't want to be a part of it. Maybe he said, all of you guys think I'm going to use my horn to charge you, to ram you down, to run you through. And I don't want to be a part of it. Maybe the unicorn was the one that summoned the rainbow right after the storm with the magic stick that everyone from the ark was trying to take out of the box. When you feel like your square is Delaware, or a round peg trying to fit into a triangular hole, there's a moment of squeeze that I do feel like you're going to experience. And I don't think it should be on the kids to experience that squeeze. As adults, we've already established what it feels like to be Judah. By age 18, all of us have been Judah to somebody in some situation in our lives. I've watched comedians who are not even from this country, by the way, sit and talk about the disposition of Americans, to make fun of it, mocked it, completely degraded, debased, and tried to transform or transmute that energy into something similar to apartheid. Now, when you think about what we're feeding our children in that aspect, you can think about the Batman and Robin. You can think about the Joker. You can think about the way that Batman decided to take his bad day and use his powers to prevent other people from going through that same bad day. Or you can think about the Joker, whose childhood was so traumatic to him that he chose to project that and continue to manifest it onto everybody around him every day. We've got that same option. We were given free will. Although life was never guaranteed to be easy, it was guaranteed. The moment that you took your first breath, that was your life. Could have been one breath and that was it. God knows, only God knows how far you've come to be here, how far your light has traveled to be here and to be bright. And I don't think it's doing anybody a service to try to limit our children on how they are able to express their inner shine. If they want to be a Pegasus, if they want to be a unicorn, if they want to follow their dreams, and you don't agree with whatever that is, I think there's a necessary moment of reflection that needs to happen. What kind of a hologram are we setting up? Are you setting up are your kids being accosted by all this information that is teaching them a way to hate themselves? Or are you allowing them the freedom to explore who they could or want to be? How could we know who we want to be if we didn't explore? Why are we creating new beings and bringing them into this world without already acknowledging all the beings that are already here? That's just a question that keeps going through my mind over and over again. And when I think about, I've known people in the past who have committed suicide, unfortunately. I had a really near and dear friend of mine, Annie Knight, who wasn't able to mentally deal with some of the challenges as an adult that she was faced with. And as a result, her son was left by himself. Is that a decision that we're willing to make? Not literal suicide, but even just the mental encouragement of other people to end themselves in some way for us to feel empowered? Why is that what about that empowers anybody? Why is the emotional IQ of the world such that we have taken it upon ourselves to humble others or make them feel lesser than, make them feel poor, make them feel inferior, like a goldfish behind glass that we're asking to climb a tree like a monkey? If you ask the monkey to swim in a cage or in an aquarium, the monkey is not going to do well with that either. You can't ask a species of people or a section or a group of individuals to be anybody but who they are unless you're willing to destroy perhaps their greatest strength, perhaps their greatest joy, perhaps their mission on this earth was to be the cell of God in a way that you don't recognize through numbers, through science, through intelligent design, through a curiosity to understand nature and the patterns in which nature is trying to communicate with us, the rate at which bunnies reproduce. All of these things are Fibonacci. It's a literally graphable curve. It's here in your hand, it's here in your ear. It's in every sunflower, every pine cone. There's a divine message that I feel the earth trying to tell us. I feel the animals are trying to reflect for us as desperately as they can. I don't know if you guys have seen The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but the dolphins were like, yep, we're out. So, I mean, when you look at a dolphin, it kind of does look like a unicorn a little bit. Dolphins are one of the only other mammals, especially in the sea, who can recognize their own reflection, who have sexual relations with each other for pleasure, who can also rape each other with bad intentions. This is not just about us. It's not about being fallible. It's not about being wrong. It's just about acknowledging that we are animals, that we are part of the earth. We live on it. This is all the same boat. If one person knocks a hole through the bottom of the boat, all of us are going down. The Demon in the Freezer, that book that I've mentioned to you guys before, the whole point of the CDC, the whole point of the World Health Organization is to contain diseases, dis-ease, an inability to feel ease inside of yourself, an imbalance that could eradicate the human race. What kind of biological formulas are we wanting to promote with technology? What kind of biology are we creating for our own beliefs? When you're talking about the way water is influenced by words, by intentions, by branding. We could talk about Fiji water. We could talk about Perrier water. We could talk about Nestle. What are all these waters? What are all these, at the end of the day, the puja that Eastern Indian people perform on themselves every day is a sacred process of cleansing. Because your mind is so strong, your body is so able, you're such a powerful being in and of yourself that there's nothing and nobody that could possibly stop you in the event that you embody all of those portions of stardust, moon, light, and physical existence that come into being when you're first conceived. We're the result of everything that's happened through this entire universe over the eons and the millions of years that it took to form just this moment. For us to be carbon-based life is almost a shot in the dark in itself. The fact that we can conversate, the fact that we can transfer an image from our mind to another, it's all part of the process. It's all part of the plasticity of the universe, of a universal mind that allowed you to be here and allowed our children to be here. And I think it's important for us to take a moment to just kind of think about how we can stand in solidarity with our children, even if it's not a perspective that we're used to seeing from. What can we do to help them feel as supported and as stable and as sustained as they need to feel in order for them to express for themselves what kind of humans they would like to be? They're so amazing and precious. I just don't feel the need to box anymore. People. Don't box the cat, Schrodinger. Don't box the animals that are airborne, the animals that are bound to this earth, or the animals that are underneath the sea. Because funny enough, we're all of those things. When you go speak over something, just got the rainbow, just split the deck and the rainbow came out. When you speak over these things and when we are able to embody a positive vibration that we can then share with our children, we are giving them the spectrum of color. We're giving them nuance. We're giving them dynamics that they can then use to manifest for themselves what they'd like to be. And although the love that we can give them is sometimes all that we can give, there's also a faith that we need to have in them as individuals, that they are going to discover the experiences, uh, and the experiences. I'm just going to keep saying it, that they're going to have the experiences that they need to have in order to bubble as delicious entities, as delicious individuals, as delicious nutrients for each other, for this world, for um, their thoughts and ideas to come into reality, into fruition. This is a cornucopia that we live inside of. And all of us have the ability to be first fruit, if you will. I'm not trying to promote religion like I just said, but I think the fruitfulness of your mind, apples and oranges, bananas and pears, do they look alike? No. Do they taste alike? No. But what kind of fruit salad would you prefer to have? One with just pears and grapes? Or do you want to have one that includes pineapples and bananas and peaches and apples and all of the nutrients available as an option? Some of us are pickier than others, but that's why we've got tools like forks and spoons and knives, so that we can sort out for ourselves what works. So you can remove the mango if you're allergic to it. Remove the toxins from yourself, from your own mind. Pick it out. Throw out the things that aren't working for you and pick up the parts that are. Tie them together. Our responsibility is to be a tether. Archangel Michael is sitting here on the bottom of the deck. Our responsibility is to be a tether for each other, to keep each other firmly grounded. Not in a physical sense, lizard? Yeah. Not in a fight or flight state of mind. That gives you two options. You're going to fight or you're going to run. What about those people who are disabled? Physically disabled, mentally disabled. How are they going to fight? How are they going to run? We need to come up with another option. D. Option D. All of the above. As above, so below. First and last. Last comes first. There are shades of gray that we're not acknowledging right now. And not only are we not acknowledging them, we're literally knocking people off. If people are knocking you off, that's switches that are being flipped on and off in our genetic patterns. Those are reasons why we're losing our children. Those are the lenses of our eyes that are not really clear. And I don't think they're clear because we've decided to look through rose-colored glasses for too long. There has to be some kind of way, and I'm showing you this. There's a way to stand with others without adopting their view. By staying yourself, I'm not straining my eyes in order to stand with my son. My eyes don't need correction. If his need correction, then mine need to be framed. Maybe I can help him see through some of the rose-colored glasses that have been applied to him, unfortunately, in this society. And I hope that at the end of the day, he will have a very transparent ability to stand in solidarity with those people, places, and things that don't have any lenses. No lenses. I don't want lint on my clothes. I don't want shade in my face. I don't want shade in my tone. Not with my child. And I would hope that the educators, that his friends, that his other families that will be a part of our lives would have the same sentiment, would be willing to stand up and speak on what it is that they are trying to promote. And if they're not willing to speak on it, then I think there needs to be a removal of the way we frame things. You can't look at Africa in a frame of an atlas or a map if it's inaccurately sized, which most maps are. Relevant to America, Africa is almost 3 times larger. And because of the maps that we give our children to navigate, that's actually not reflected. The victor always writes history, the person who won. Instead of competing with each other, maybe we should be collaborating. Instead of trying to steal pathologies, instead of trying to steal perspectives or knock someone's ability to express themselves, to be themselves, to have that transparency about who they are, remove the masks that hold us up from seeing clearly. We've got to remove that extra fluff from our minds and that extra bulk of activity on our bodies, in our souls, in our spirits, and become unafraid to just let our children be that inspiration and that motivation for us, for each of us. I can't think of anything or any reason why I would go to work to make money or would be willing to stand up any taller than I possibly can, except for my kid. That's my reason. And I think it's important for us to all look at the reasons why. All 13 of them. Ophiuchus. There are 13 zodiac signs. And yours might be different with Ophiuchus in consideration. And whatever identity works the best for you to maneuver the way that you need to and manifest the way that you'd like to is the focus I feel we need to have at this time. So I've been talking for like an hour, which is way longer than I meant for this to be, but I did feel like I needed to communicate a little bit about the things that are coming through. I just think if there was some fluidity between the living, the dead, and all the veils in between, the life events that we cover ourselves for, I think there would be a larger sense of stability for everybody, a choice for everybody, a box that we no longer have to tick off or be pissed off about. It's just a shift. It's not a paradigm shift. It's not a pair of nickel shifts either. It's a shift. And just from having been pregnant twice in my life, I can tell you the nature of change is sometimes uncomfortable. It doesn't feel great to be stretched way outside of what you're used to. But I promise you that once that pressure becomes great enough, you will give birth to something amazing. You will shift. You'll transition between being eyes wide shut versus eyes dilated versus eyes wide open. There's no verse or universe that could ever stop that. So we're on this path already. This timeline that we see as linear could very well be something that we can directly affect. I think that's all I've got to say. I have my unicorn cards here, and they were speaking a little bit to me while I was reading or downloading that for you guys. But I do want to actually pull really fast as well. This is probably going to take forever to upload, but I don't care. So I'm going to go ahead and just shuffle a little bit more. And let's see what comes out. Okay. Wow, guys. This makes me feel like crying. I'm not going to cry. Invisibility is the first card that came out. It's number 16. It says, take off your cloak of invisibility and let your light be seen. That's more or less what I was trying to say. I think the other message that had come through the other day, which was I was debating on whether to share or not, but I will because all of these cards that just came out. Mother Mary had to stand and watch Jesus Christ be pinned to a cross and killed. She sat and watched her son become invisible to the world and to leave or transition. And this is the message that I was just getting, was that the stoning, the 12 times that he fell down on the way up the hill, he did all that by himself. And all she could do was watch. This is what I'm talking about, is the reasons why. If someone feels invisible, if someone is invisible, if we're allowing this to blind us to the reasons why, then of course the unicorn would not have gotten on the ark. Why would Mother Mary ever want to watch that happen again? I'm sorry I got emotional, but honestly, like, this is just what I was saying. You know what? I recorded my previous message as well, and I'm actually feeling like I need to upload both just so that you can see what the original message was that came through as well with the Haagen-Dazs. These are numbers 16, 36, and 44 on these cards. Mary Mother and the unicorns are blessing you. And open the door to the kingdom of heaven. Speak your minds. Help our kids speak their minds. Let the children speak. They're not invisible. They're not schedulable to come into existence. You don't get to control certain things about God. You don't get to dictate how someone feels God or experiences God. We're each given free will and a valid opinion. And I'm a little speechless, honestly. I don't know how else to say this. I just literally think that rather than covering all of this, forcing people into a trinity that makes them feel invisibly cloaked, it's time to share the Hogwarts magic of Haagen-Dazs. When you're hogging this, these are the things that you're doing. So what are we doing here? Yeah, I think that's all there is. There isn't anymore. Dignity just flipped on the top there. So anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys to it. Good luck. I'll be back hopefully with the air sign reads, but like I said, I'm a little exhausted. So catch you guys next time. Bye.